So today we're going to talk about career growth. There might be some hard lessons in this episode. I'm kind of hoping that we are all challenged by some of the things we hear today, but I suspect the message will be delivered with kindness too. We'll see. That's coming up now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams. This is the HR Hub. On this show, we get expert insight into anything related to HR. Please subscribe to the show or to the podcast to keep learning from my guests. So today my guest is again Adam Pekarsky. Adam is a lawyer by trade, but he got into executive search a while back and founded his own executive search company in 2009, which has recently merged with the company called Humanis. He, in my opinion, has the best newsletter you've ever read, and that seems like a pretty expensive statement, but I think it's valid. You should check that out. And also, by the time I publish this particular episode, he's going to be releasing a book. And Adam, what's the book called?
It's called the Ampersand Chronicles, Volume 1, Stories of a Small but Mighty Business in a Rough and Tumble Town.
One of the sections in the book is around career growth, and that intrigued me. So here we are. We're going to talk about career growth. So someone who values career growth, what do you need to prioritize?
You need to answer the question, what do you mean by growth? That's the first step. So is career growth promotions? Does it mean a progression of title? Does it mean a progression of responsibility? Does it mean an increase of money? What does growth mean to you? Because a lot of people think they know what growth is, and it's the ladder, it's the climb. But maybe career growth can be defined as an increasing measure of satisfaction or an increasing measure of confidence. Maybe you don't need a fancy title or a bigger office to experience career growth. So it really is all about, in my opinion, what motivates you. And if you want to have a really good career and you want to also be there, let's say for your kids, and you want to be involved in your community, and you want to have time for yourself, and you want to exercise, and you want to travel, and you want to be there for aging parents, and you want to do all of it, well, maybe career growth is finding a job or a career that allows you to do all of those things really well, as opposed to none of them very well. So it really, it comes down to challenging the traditional paradigm of what is growth and what is success.
Well, those are such big questions. They're almost like a lifelong journey, some of the answers.
And they change because it's a product of age and stage and where you're at along that journey. My wife is she's an actuary by training. She works in HR at a really big midstream company here in Calgary called Enbridge. And we have 3 kids. And she made a very conscious decision that 15 years ago, when they were 15 years younger, and she started her career at Enbridge, that she didn't want to climb the ranks to be a director, to be a VP. She could have. She absolutely has the smarts and has the drive and all of it. And she made some compromises along the way. She currently reports to a guy who she hired way back in the day as her junior. But that's because he climbed past her, not because he climbed faster. She just decided that she wanted to be there for the kids, be there for me as I launched my firm, be there for her mom and dad, be there for herself. And so I would submit that's demonstrable career growth, even though she didn't go from manager to senior manager to director to senior director to VP because again, there's lots of ways to define growth. It just depends. Age, stage, priorities, motivators. If you're motivated by money and fame and status and title, well, let's get on that ladder and start climbing, baby, because that's what we better get on it. But maybe you're not. Maybe you're motivated by prestige. And a lot of people are. They want the adulation for a job well done. And who doesn't? But for some, it really is the be all and end all. For others, they don't care. They just want a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And, they work for the government.
Something you said there. While you were talking about your wife, just as an example. And we can decide at some point that this is the objective we have and this is what motivates me. But then there is a sting when that guy gets promoted and you don't.
It does happen. And I saw it firsthand. It does sting. And you've really got to kind of get to a place where you're at peace with it.
Hey, business owners, executive directors, are people stresses or challenges getting in your way? Imagine managing your people issues smoothly, addressing, better yet, dealing with employee problems before they're ever a big problem, adapting to all the changes in employee rules, and doing all of this easily. I can deal with your HR challenges so they're resolved. With me, you'll get the right things done, build a strong team, and create a workplace where the right people want to be. Your business deserves to thrive without a lot of HR hassle. I'm here to help you make that happen. With my assistance, you can focus on business growth, supported by a strong team. Take a first step towards a better business today. Reach out and let's chat. Visit thehrhub.ca and let's begin transforming your people challenges.
What about career goals? Do you think we should be setting career goals, or should we just mostly be thinking about what our motivators are and trying to follow that line of thought?
What is it? Mike Tyson had that great quote, everyone has a strategy till they get punched in the face. You're right. And I think that's the problem, with goals as opposed to motivators. So like I have two sons, they're avid golfers. And so I play a lot of golf with them. They're better than me now. And the one, my youngest, really wants, he was just in a tournament in the weekend, and he's a really nice player. And his goal when he puts his tee in the ground on the first hole is to break par. Well, if he starts the first hole with like a triple bogey, which is not good, his goals might have to shift. And maybe he breaks them down to a very small micro goal, which is, okay, we got a triple bogey on the first. Let's make sure we get a birdie on the second. We're no longer talking about the big goal to break par. We're talking about what we're going to do next in response to what just happened. We all had goals, in early March of 2020, and they had changed by the end of March of 2020, I can assure you. So, I personally, and this doesn't mean it's right, but I've never been a big goal setter in terms of my career. I went to law school, graduated in 1997, and did not have it written anywhere that in the summer of 2009, leveraging off of my law degree and my knowledge of the lawyers in my community, I would start a firm specializing initially in the recruitment of lawyers. Never. That was never the plan. Now, when I look back at my career path, it makes perfect sense in retrospect, but that's not goal setting. That's just reviewing. But my motivation was always to be known for applying my craft better than anyone else. What that craft is happened to change along the way because I didn't love practicing law. So that's my personal view, but I know a lot of people who are goal setters and it works for them. So it gets back to really knowing yourself and knowing your motivators.
Okay, I just have to ask. I can't help myself. Do you ask what's your 5-year goals when you interview people?
I do not. I'll tell you a quick funny story. So years ago, I was doing the student recruitment at my law firm. So we, to find the next crop of articling students, and we would always interview in twos. And at the last minute, one of my fellow lawyer interviewers got a phone call and couldn't be there. And so a senior partner of the firm sat in last minute, and he clearly had not interviewed anyone in forever. Lovely guy. And his very first question to this second-year law student, who would probably have been, I don't know, 24 years old, 25, was, what's your 25-year plan? And I looked at him and I said, Al, let's give the poor kid a break here. Like, they are trying right now to survive the next 30 minutes. Okay. So, like, cool, interesting. No one has a 25-year plan. So, yeah, I don't think that's realistic. I think the world is changing so quickly that the jobs that, my youngest is 17, the job he's going to have when he's ready to enter the workforce probably doesn't even exist today.
Yeah.
So it's not super helpful to have a 5, 10, 15-year plan.
Well, I know you're doing a whole series on your own podcast about career change.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's underway or what, but I think it is. What are the takeaways so far from that series for an HR audience?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm glad you asked that. So we're about halfway through recording this season, and we're bringing people on, and we're talking about career change. And so we've broken it down into basically there are 4 possible outcomes when you think about career change.
Mm-hmm.
Outcome 1, you leave your current station, because it's all about career change. So you started out on path A and you leave it to pursue path B, and it turned out great. Okay. Option 2, you leave and it turned out not so great. It was a bad decision. Option 3, you stay put and it turns out great.
I know.
Option 4, you stay put and you live with regret because you should have done the thing, but you didn't. And each of our guests really unpacks sometimes more than one, but at least one of those scenarios. One of the takeaways is that the bad things, like the 2 scenarios where either you went and it sucked or you stayed and it sucked, often led to something better down the road. Like, it's not like we've had anyone on the podcast who said, and so I stayed and I was miserable and I'm still miserable. It usually is sort of, it's an impetus to actually try again. And, either make your current station better by having the hard conversation and trying to solve the problem from within through a mentor, through HR, through some channel to say, this ain't working for me and here's why. But it's really interesting. So that would be the big takeaway. Whereas the 2 outcomes that lead to a really happy result, either staying or going, typically the people are still there having fun, doing good things. So yeah, we've had some very, very candid sharing, and it's been wonderful.
Any thoughts around just, that, in fact, those, we always say you learn from your mistakes, right? So that those hard experiences those people are having, either staying or going, that there's more growth happening there, that in the end, they really are better off. Yeah.
I often say to young people, that, including my own kids, but also young professionals who are starting out their career, they often ask, how do you seek out a mentor? And, where do you find mentors and how do you seek them out? As though they're this like mythical oracle that they need to find, a long bearded, gray,
yes,
like Albus Dumbledore. Yeah, exactly. And what I often say is that oftentimes mentorship shows up in the character of an individual who you do not want to be like. That in and of itself is a form of mentorship. And I had that experience myself when I decided to launch this firm, my predecessor firm that I was at. I saw decision-making and a culture that absolutely was antithetical to the culture that I wanted to belong at. And rather than fix it from within, in other words, make the decision to stay and be part of the solution, not the problem, I determined very quickly that that was too great of a force to change. And the best way to do it was start my own firm and create a firm that absolutely espoused the opposite of what I was experiencing while there. So in a way, mentorship can come at you in the inverse, which is way easier because you don't have to go seek out Albus Dumbledore. You just have to keep your eyes open and say, yeah, that person right there, not what I want to strive for.
Yes. This is maybe where okay, actually, sorry, before that. What about passion? Do you have to be passionate?
Yep. It's,
How?
so it's why I left the law. Tiger Woods, when he was in his prime, he would always say, I'm not the best golfer in the world because I have the most talent. I'm the best golfer in the world because I practice the most. And the reason I'm able to practice the most is because I love practicing. If he didn't love hitting 1,000 golf balls a day, he wouldn't have gotten good, let alone great. And I'll tell you a quick story. I recall as a young lawyer, it was late at night. I was working on a very complicated transaction that I didn't really know anything. Like I just didn't even understand what the heck was going on. And I was in the office of the partner that I was working for on the deal. And his phone rang, and it was another partner at the firm who wasn't on the deal. And the guy I was working for, David, put speakerphone on, and the other guy, Bill, just starts excitedly explaining the answer to the problem. Like it was this technical legal workaround. You create a holdco, and then you do a rollover, and then you butterfly this and do that. And he was just like, and it was like midnight. And I remember in that moment thinking, I will never get there. Not because I lacked the aptitude. I was smart. I'm sure I could have, but because I didn't care enough about the answer to put in the time to get there. And it's like, if you don't like hitting golf balls, you're never going to be Tiger Woods. And if you don't like really complex problems being solved, you're probably not going to be a great corporate lawyer. And so for me, passion is everything. Now, it's a little Pollyanna to think that you can be passionate about your job every darn day, every stage of the journey. Like, right. I'm the boss here. I founded the firm. Until the merger. I'm now just another cog in the wheel, but I'm the majority shareholder. I can kind of come and go as I please. I have a team of 10 incredible people who make me look really good every day. And with all of that, there are days I still don't love my job. So I'm not suggesting that you have to just skip and whistle to work every day. But you have to have a baseline level of passion for what it is, for the widget that you're producing. Again, that is a bit of a luxury. It's not everyone in our society has that privilege of actually enjoying their work. And I get that. There are lots of people for whom liking what they do is a pipe dream, but they need a paycheck. Thank you very much. Yeah. But I think for those of us who, in a certain segment of the workplace, the professional world where people have worked really hard, accumulated student debt, gone to get an undergraduate degree, gone to get a postgraduate degree, fought the good fight to rise through the ranks, they've earned the right to be happy at work. And part of that happiness comes from being passionate about what you do. For me, and it changes. That's the thing. It pivots and it changes as your career progresses. Mm-hmm. For me, I love pitching, and I love troubleshooting, and I love solving problems, and not necessarily for my clients, but even just for my team. When probably my greatest job satisfaction comes from when one of the teammates pops their head in my office and says, "I'm a little stuck. Can I run something by you?" And that moment of just working through it together and not just giving them the answer, because that's not mentorship, but asking them the right questions to get them to think about it and then arrive at a place that they feel they got to all by themselves. And maybe they did, but they probably didn't. But I don't need the credit at this stage of my career. I don't need, I just need the satisfaction of knowing they got there. And but that wasn't my motivation 20 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? The motivation 20 years ago was just like, don't get fired. So it changes. It changes. But if you are in a position, if you are in a privileged enough position where passion is an option, you have to choose it because it's critical.
I think you've already done this, but I want you to specifically trade off the ideas of work-life balance, whatever that means, and career growth.
Yeah, there definitely is a trade-off. And here's how I approach work-life balance. I don't think it exists. I think I'm a believer in work-life integration. And the reason I don't like work-life balance is if you think about balance, it's a scale, right? That's if I asked you to give me an icon for balance, you would probably show me a scale. And a scale is balanced here. And it's if one side goes up, then the other side goes down. There's trade-offs as though it's binary, as though you have to either choose career or being at Johnny's soccer game at 4:00, which means leaving work at 3:00. But it doesn't have to be that way. I say to my team all the time, we're going to enter into this social contract. And it goes like this. I am going to impose my work life on your personal life. And you are going to impose your personal life on my work life. So we're going to have this understanding where if you want to go for a run by the river at 2:00 in the afternoon because you don't have any meetings or calls from 2 till 4, go for it. But if I'm up really early on a Saturday morning, cranking through a bunch of emails, and I send you one, I will tell you if it needs a response right away, and I will tell you if it can wait till Monday. But I am triaging my inbox by sending you that note in that moment because it works for me to do so. It's a true story. I get up really early on Saturdays and I just catch up on a bunch of stuff. But I don't want my team to be like, when they roll out of bed at 9:30, because, they have a different life, I don't want them looking at their phone and having 26 emails from Adam. Like, that's not really nice. But if 2 of them are, hey, sorry to do this to you, but I'm working on a proposal and the client needs it Monday morning. Can you answer these questions? But that's work-life integration. That's the trade-off. Balance is a harder thing to attain because it really does require giving up something to get something. Now, that was a pretty complex answer to your question. At its simplest form, yes, there are trade-offs that we have to make along the journey. And sometimes those trade-offs are within the home. Sometimes we have to support a spouse who is going on a path, and that requires one or the other to make some sacrifices. It's so individual and so personal to each that, it's an overly simplistic solution to a really complicated question to just say, yep, that's right. You have to make some sacrifices. Yes, you do, but there's just so much more to it than that.
Man, I have so many more questions, but I am mindful that we are out of time. We were out of time probably 5 minutes ago. I am going to put a link to your book in the show notes. That really is all we have time for. Well, thanks, Adam. That was just so thought-provoking and insightful. And I'm certainly now thinking about some of the way you contextualized what those tips were, like the ones around thinking strongly about what your motivators are. I'm going to give that some thought. You folks out there, if you're trying and wrestling with some of these questions, I suggest you check out a coach. I have done some coaching episodes. A link to that is here. Now, besides that, Adam and I did an awesome episode on executive search, and a link to that's right there. You should check that out too. And if you're, just keep looking out there, people. But thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.